mentioned in your article, you said Christians were very proud of him. So he was like an angel. People, when he came back after having graduated with a senior Cambridge, he was highly revered and admired. And there's something you noted. You said, Professor Lantum said that he was in standard 3 at the time when Fonlon came back. You were in standard 3. Mm-hmm. And you were very bright and alert. Professor Lantum was really bright and alert at the time. Yeah. Very bright and alert, so he was no longer a child. So from there, he came back and went to Sase. Very important. It's important to know what happened there. So Fonlon went to teach in Sase, where he met another important figure, Victor Anomango.
Yes, that's in Sase College.
Okay.
St. Joseph's College, Sase.
Okay. So he went there to teach.
Yeah, he went there to teach.
Okay. So he met for Victor Anomango, who became his very good friend till his death in 1986.
Yes.
Now, let's go on Fonlon on holidays, because that's a very important point. It is on holidays that Professor Lantum got to know Fonlon in toto. So, Professor Lantum writes in this article, why Fonlon came back on holidays, he visited Christian parents. Because that's one of the things he did when he was on holidays, especially the mothers, who were friends of his mother. We go back to the mother. The mother played a great role.
And my mother was a Christian, of course.
Part of it. So the question was, why did he only pay a visit to the mothers? Where were the fathers?
The fathers.
When the bush walking in the farm.
You people.
Okay.
You clubs.
I see.
They had gone from very busy, running home affairs.
Okay. Why the women were at home, so they were more available.
Yes.
Very important to mention that. And you mentioned, Professor Lantum, that Fonlon visited your mother, Catherine Yunwang.
Catherine Yu.
Catherine Yu. So Fonlon visited Professor Lantum's mother, Catherine Yu, and because your mother was a good friend to Agatha Na, who was the mother of Fonlon.
Yes.
And also because they were from Nzen village. Nzen village. And they recognized some kingship.
Well, that's a village, they grew up together.
Okay, interesting. So now, Fonlon went to Sase, taught there, they came on holidays. Another important factor, in 1947, Bishop Peter Rogan, apostolic vicar at the time in Boya, permitted Fonlon to leave Sase. So Fonlon was in Sase teaching. Bishop Peters permitted him to leave Sase and to join Aloysius Wankwi in the major seminary in Okwala, Orienta in Nigeria. This is a very important point because this moment changed the life of Fonlon. Fonlon was a teacher, then he joined the seminary, major seminary. Okay, important, very good. Now, what happened there? So in the major seminary, we are told that he was there for 1 year before he transferred to Enugu.
Yes.
So the seminary was moved from Okwala to Enugu.
At that time, when we was ordained in Kumu.
Okay.
And he came for ordination.
I see.
I was there with him.
Oh, interesting. This is very interesting. So you witnessed the first ordination.
Yes.
That's very good.
By Monsignor Rogan.
Peter Rogan. So let's go. Professor Lantum, from 1947 to 1950, he studied philosophy in at the bigger major seminary. Then he returned home. Okwala Orienta, and then later to Enugu. Then he returned home in 1950, very important. And when he returned home, you wrote in your article that the easiest place to see Fonlon was after morning mass.
I was living with him.
Okay.
He borrowed me to stay with him as I on a mat in front of his bed.
That's a very important point. Why did Fonlon love you so much?
I don't know.
Okay. So I think it was because of the relationship between the two mothers, right?
Maybe my character.
And your character too, obviously your character. Because I think Fonlon was not a person that would mingle with.
No. He was selected.
Okay, good. So this is very important. So he returned home 1950, and you met him constantly doing morning masses. Doing morning masses.
Welcome. Ukijuma.
And from that moment, you became from friends in 1950 during the holidays to brothers that will never separate. From that moment, you guys never separated till his death. From that 1950.
From 1950,
Yes.
I spent that holiday with him
Okay.
in the classroom.
Very important.
Lying on a mat in front of his bed.
Why? Why in the classroom?
He decided to live in the classroom. He wouldn't stay with the family.
Okay. He wanted to be detached
All the time.
so that he could concentrate on his priestly formation.
Yes. Well, and I remember we read the Bible.
Okay. Yes, you mentioned that during a time with Fonlon, it was like a roving university.
Well,
You not only read the Bible, but you spoke about education, about all the
medicine, yes.
exactly. You mentioned that. That's very important to note. So Fonlon,
And I asked him what is philosophy.
okay, and he told you what it was. The study of wisdom.
The study of philosophy.
Yeah. Philosophia.
Philosophy, yes.
Exactly. Okay. Another important point, Doctor,
In Latin.
in Latin. Interesting.
Because I was doing Latin already in something.
Okay.
And I came.
Yes.
He taught me definition of philosophy in Latin.
Interesting.
During that 1950.
Okay. This is quite interesting, really. Okay, so in 1950, Fonlon was 26 years old when he came back. He came back as a philosopher and as a seminarian. While you were turning 17, unless you were already an adult, you were almost an adult.
Yes.
And you were also very bright and intelligent because you were coming from Sase.
Yes.
And you were in your second year second year in Sase at the time,
Yes.
1950. And you had a very strong attachment to Christian, to the church.
Yes.
Is it thanks to Fonlon that you had this strong attachment, or is it thanks to your family?
I believe that I had that strong attachment because Father Adam was my teacher in Sacred Heart.
Moses, who became Lucas Adam.
Yes.
Okay.
So my teacher in Chisholm,
Yes.
and I found the entrance to Sase.
Okay.
And then he also was transferred to Sase.
Yes.
And I continued that spiritual formation.
Interesting. So the fact that you were exposed to Father Lucas Adam and Fonlon really helped you to have an attachment for the church.
Yes.
Interesting. And you also came back as a college scholar because you were coming from Sase. You come back as a college scholar.
Yeah.
Quite interesting. So there's a very important point here. Anthony Mapri, college mate in Sase, will serve Fonlon to clean his home, to fetch food and water. So you live with Fonlon and Anthony Mapri. Who was Mapri? Anthony.
Anthony Mapri
Okay.
was the son of the catechist
Oh, okay.
who was a builder of the church.
I see.
The builder. He
Okay.
was building the cathedral, he was building the father's houses in Chisholm.
Okay.
So I knew him.
So you two were together and you helped Fonlon to clean his home, to fetch food and water.
Yes.
Do you remember what Fonlon loved to eat at the time? What did he like to eat?
He went to eat fufu.
Oh, fufu and soup.
And we eat everyone.
Okay, simple.
Yes.
So one thing you mentioned in your article, Dr. Lantum, was that, Professor Lantum, was that during this moment you discovered that Fonlon was living a simple lifestyle, very simple. Simple man.
Yes.
Secondly, he was a humble person.
Well,
Anybody could approach him and speak and talk with him.
yes.
And you also noted that you every night you read some chapters of the New Testament.
Yes.
Interesting. And that you also had very, very profound conversations with him, like about events of every day in Saul,
Yeah.
and about some school subjects like geography, history, lives of saints,
Yeah.
doctors of the church like St. Augustine,
Yeah.
St. Thomas Aquinas,
It was there.
okay, St. Albertus Magnus, and St. Bonaventure.
Yes.
Interesting. And not to forget some Greek philosophers like Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. So during that all these discussions, Fonlon will talk to you about philosophers, as you had mentioned, in Latin.
Yes.
And you concluded that it was like a roving university. So you people were like in the university because Fonlon was there to teach you, your attention to quite interesting. So when the holidays were half past, very important point, Fonlon suggested that Mapri and you should visit French Cameroon.
Yes.
Could you tell us, because that's a very important thing. Very important thing. Why would Fonlon want to visit French Cameroon at the time?
Well, he had been there before.
Okay.
And he wanted us to visit French Cameroon again.
Okay.
And we did. We went to Boya, got our passports, and then we came to what we call Bonaveri.
Yes.
And he left us with Osama Wayo,
Okay.
and then we were staying there. And he continued to Yabasi.
I see.
And in Yabasi,
To visit a priest called Abbé, I got down his name, which I'm going to talk later. He went there to visit the priest.
I didn't know whom we were going to visit.
From the article. I'll get back to that. This journey was very important because so many things happened during this journey that from which we learned who Fonlon was. So many things happened. And so I would like us to take it gradually because I wrote it very detailedly. So what happened was that
How about with you?
That interview, how am I basic?
so this is very important. So you agreed with glee. I enjoy the way you write. You know, when I read your article, I read it over and over because your English is exceptional. you said you agreed with glee, especially as he was to foot the bill.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? So Fonlon paid the bill, everything.
Yes.
So this shows that Fonlon was a generous person,
Yes.
very generous. So these incidents are very important for sainthood. He was a generous person, okay? And your parents agreed that you should go with him
Yes.
because they had known him, they knew the type of person he was. And the intention was that after having left in this, the intention was that you will not return to him, so you will go to Sase while he goes to Enugu.
Yes. So then when on our return,
Yes,
he continued to Enugu and sent us back
to
to French.
Sase. Now let's concentrate on this journey to French Cameroon.
Where did you read this?
I read this from the article you wrote in Socrates in Cameroon. It's very important. That article is absolutely important. It is entitled Formative Years of Professor Dr. Bernard Sorika Fonlon by Dr. Lantum.
Right. Yeah.
So from 1924 to 1961, you got a detailed account of
We
who
were two living together.
Together.
We were eating together.
eating together.
And he was talking to us, advising us. And his dress was khaki, not the dress you wear.
I see. Yeah, I noticed he loved dressing in African traditional wear. He was proud to be a khaki. So the color was khaki. So Dr. Lantum, let's go back to this journey. It's very important to me because there's so many things that happened there. So first of all, you people took a lorry from Nsor to Bamenda.
Yes.
Lorry. So traveling those days was not easy.
No, we used to travel by lorry. Special, that have four-wheel truck.
Okay. So where did you used to sit behind?
I used to sit of course behind.
Interesting.
And someone would sit in front.
It's quite interesting. So people left from Sor to Bamenda, and then from Bamenda to Mamfe, where you were lodged by Mr. Chila
Yes.
for 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, Fonlon was very watchful. He took great care of you people.
Yes.
Very watchful, always taking care. Where's small, like little Lantum doing? I hope he's fine. So this is another important point. Professor Fonlon was very, very, he was attentive to his juniors. Very, very attentive. This is a very important point to note. Now let's go back to the anecdote. There's the anecdote you got about the baggage giving way, the rough handling and the shaking. No, in the lorry, rough handling, the bad words at the time. So something happened.
Fonlon advised us
Yes.
because we had to carry our own granules and garri.
Okay.
And I tried mine very well,
Good.
but Mapri,
Did not.
he did not. So when Fonlon had to leave to Enugu,
Yes.
followed him for briefly in Koyo.
Okay.
The back gave way for my friend back.
And he got open.
Yeah, the wall open. The ground was falling.
Oh.
So he bent down to collect his donuts.
Yes.
Fonlon reminded people,
I told you. So this is a very important point because it also shows the character of Fonlon. Fonlon was very strict. Because I remember what he said. I have it here written. This is what he said. You headstrong fellow. You headstrong fellow. Those are very powerful words. This is what he said to him. He said, you won't learn anything. How often do I tell you to do something and you do the very opposite?
Yes.
Why do you sometimes behave like mules? With this kind of behavior, we may as well call off the journey from the outset. French Cameroon is rather a risky place and you can't get away with this kind of stubbornness. I may reconsider and do the journey alone and leave your dead weight at Kumba. So you see, Fonlon was very, very angry with Murphy for not having obeyed. But he paid the price. He lost his Gary and the gunners, they all poured. So this is very important about Fonlon. Fonlon was a very disciplined person and he had advised both Professor Lantum and Murphy that when they are traveling, there's a very important thing he said. Yeah, Mapri. A very important thing he said, when traveling, always buy a good rope and tie your things properly. This was what Professor Fonlon advised. If you economize and save on the rope, you may lose all your baggage and whatever little wealth it eats up. If you economize your money, you lose your wealth.
Where did you read this?
This was taken from the article you wrote in Formative Years of Professor Dr. Bernard Sogika Fonlon, published in Socrates in Cameroon. I have a copy. I've read through the book over and over to understand why Fonlon became the person he became because of his formative years. So this is the most important part because you knew him, you ate with him, you lived with him, you traveled with him. That's why I'm very, very, this is very important to understand Fonlon in the future. Very, very important. So, after having said that Murphy was stubborn and he got the consequences, he didn't listen, the luggage burst open and small amount of Gary poured onto the sandy road of Mamfe. So, the Mamfe road. Okay.
And then Fonlon drove away.
Good. Fonlon was very, very angry with him and shouted at him. Now, when people got let's get to, so the beans and Gary poured in Mamfe, and that aroused the anger of Fonlon, his temper. So Fonlon was a human being also, he could also get angry. Now, after having lost the Gary, what happened? You people came back and boarded the vehicle, the routine vehicle that was going to Kumba, because from there people went to Kumba speechless.
Yes.
So you were very, very. But more to that, Professor Lantum, you were speechless because you were so sad that Murphy had disobeyed his master.
What?
Because you had obeyed him, your master. Your own was there, banned. This is very interesting. So the journey was 120 miles from Mamfe to Kumba, and then yeah, and your heart kept beating and beating and beating, and you said, oh, you were saying within you, I hope Professor Fonlon can reconsider and forgive, and he did forgive. He did forgive, but you were very excited to go to French Cameroon from what you got in your article.
We're now come back.
Okay.
Fonlon is going to Enugu and we're going to
Sasa. So you mentioned that you wanted to see Douala, whose electric light had been viewed periodically from the Boya Mountain slopes and Mutengene Hills on clear, starry nights.
Yes.
So you were excited. Oh, let's go to that Douala and see how it is. So now let's go to Kumba. You arrive Kumba and you lodge at the police station with the Ubins. Martin Ubin. Next morning, Murphy got new ropes to tie his back, and Fonlon was very happy of the effort, and then he forgave him. So this is very important. Fonlon got angry, but he could also forgive. This is a true characteristic of a Christian. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Now, let's go to the, after having done that, you after having lodged, the following day you procured a required laissez-passer. So, Fonlon procured a laissez-passer for you and Murphy so that you could go into French Cameroon.
Yes.
Interesting. Then after having done that, you passed through Mokonje, Laduma, German plantations, and you reached River Mungo, which was the frontier.
Yes, it's frontier.
Interesting. Now let's talk about the crossing at the time, because now it's just easy for us. You just from the River Mungo, we just enter as if.
I think you passed through a boat at that time.
Exactly, but at the time it was not easy. So, from what I read in your article, Fonlon cautions you not to fear and to cross without trepidation. You wrote that. And he said, if you don't do that, you'll be the hungry fishes and the hippopotamus might eat you up if you fall inside that Mungo River. I enjoyed the way you wrote it down. It was so wonderful. Now let's go to the French custom. You arrive, the French custom check your luggage to see what you had.
When you go, yes, when you cross, after crossing the Mungo, you carry me.
Okay.
And you reach a road junction where you see the train.
Okay.
Train here for the first time.
Yes.
And there you stop.
Yes.
Then the train is coming from the north, it will pick you and then go to Douala.
Exactly, because you mentioned it here that there was a train. First of all, the custom officers had two duties. One, they had to search your bag and to verify the validity of your laissez-passer.
Yeah.
Having done that, people went to Gare Mundek, where you took a train to Kongsamba, and finally in Douala.
Yeah.
Interesting. So when in the train, you were in the second class compartment. Fonlon paid for everything.
Yes.
Interesting.
He was taking us to visit that part of the world.
I see. Free of charge.
Well, I know, but he did.
Interesting. So let's go to Bonaberi. When you arrived Douala in Bonaberi, you were received by the Nsor community.
Yes.
And everyone sought to have you lodged in. Everybody was saying, come and live with us. So this shows the hospitality of the Nsor people.
Yes.
They were very willing to accommodate.
Yes, but finally we saw with Palm Wayo.
Exactly. That was what you mentioned. That finally you decided to stop with Palm Wayo, who was the husband of Mama Philomena?
Yes, I've been there for a long time.
She had plenty of space.
Yes.
Okay, interesting. Interesting. And it's important to mention that while you were there at the house of Mama Philomena, you started learning French. He had a son there called Henry. Henry was at the primary school at the time, and he could speak French already.
You knew the French Cameroon?
Exactly, and he had a book called Dessin et Calcul. So you helped him. You taught him arithmetic and English, while he taught you some to count in French. And the trois, quatre, cinq. Very interesting. Okay, so after that experience, Fonlon left for Yabasi.
Yes.
To visit his friend Abbé Maurice. To visit his friend. Then he returned from Yabasi, and something happened, very important. When he returned, he took you people to show you people the place.
And then go back.
Yes.
West Cameroon.
The video is going to the noise. The noise. It's recording. So when this is very important. It shows how Fonlon loved you very much. So he took you to the seat of government in Quartier Bonanjo in Douala City. He took you to Palais de Justice. He took you to the statue of General Leclerc. He took you to 1939 and 1945 WW2 Monument, World War II. He took you to the giant post office, Commissariat Central, Aqua Cathedral, Lagos Market, Quartier Congo. So this shows how he loved you.
Yeah.
He showed you people around. This is very interesting to note about Professor Fonlon. And you end by saying that at Quartier Congo, you met with Mr. Boniface Fokika, who was a Nsor prince. Fokika, who was a Nsor prince, who was a professional who was a prince. You met him there too, and you also met Pan Jotin, who was a famous drummer and Maya dancer.
Maya dancer, yeah.
Okay, interesting. So now, this is very important. We have been able to know that Fonlon was a generous person, caring, and from then what happened was he had to leave the following day to Enugu. But before he left to Enugu, another important point, he passed through the library. And no, a bookshop, sorry. Bookshop.
No, we are now going back.
Okay. From Douala.
Yeah.
Okay.
We are now going back.
So that
we stopped at the bookshop.
Okay.
The roadside.
So this is very important. So at the bookshop, what happened was he was looking for beginning French grammar book by Dundo.
Mm-hmm.
And he ordered the book because the book had gone stock. There was no book. Unfortunately, he couldn't find it. He ordered 2 copies and he said it should be sent to him in Enugu.
Yes.
Why do you think Fonlon was interested in French at the time?
He said the 2 Cameroons will unite.
Very important. The 2 Cameroons will be united. So there's a need for each Cameroonian to know English and French.
Yes.
Very, very interesting. So he bought the book and said, "Oh, I'm going to read it. I'm going to begin learning French," because at the time Fonlon had not known French.
No.
Good. So the interest he had to learn the language is something very, very important, because it is down to this French that Fonlon comes back to Cameroon and becomes an interpreter and becomes very famous. It's important to know this. So he bought the book, came to in Enugu. He started learning French.
While doing his theology.
While doing his theology. Good. So from 1961 to 1964, later on he became an interpreter to Ayijo. We are going to come to that. Let's go to from 1951 to 1954, correspondence. So during that time when he was in Enugu, he kept sending you letters,
yes,
writing to you. And it's important to read some of those letters. Very important. And the letters were very, very short. The letters were very, very short. I think it's very, very necessary to. I have them here. Very important. So it's practice in Cameroon. So and you noted Professor Lantum, that in 1954 he left the seminary. Mm-hmm. So he was there during that time communicating with you, but he left the seminary.
And he was planning to be a priest.
Exactly. He was planning to be a priest, and his dream did not come true.
He was not doing
theology.
Yeah.
Exactly. So his rector decided to withdraw him from the seminary. And you noted in your article, Professor Lantum, that there was a scene, an anecdote of a scene with Simon Fungem at Penja. Yeah, you noted that that in this occasion there was something Fonlon mentioned. Fonlon said, "The priestly vocation is a very risky affair. Many are called, but few are chosen."
Yeah.
So when he left, that came back to your mind. You said, Fonlon had said something. Fonlon had said something long ago.
Simon Fungem had attempted to be a priest.
Also.
Yes, okay. When we from.
Okay.
He was a man from the village and so.
Okay, so that was why he had to cite this, that the priesthood is a very risky affair. Many are called and few are chosen, and he found himself in the same bucket. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now let's go to the seminary professors. The seminary professors saw that Fonlon could be a better church. The seminary formators saw that Fonlon could better lead the church as a lay person than a priest.
Well,
that was why he was sent away.
Yes, that's what I got.
But he later became a priest without robes.
I wanted him to be a priest.
Okay.
And he wanted to be a priest, but they sent him out.
Yes.
That he is better
to serve as a lay person.
Yeah.
And he did serve as a lay person. He did an extraordinary job. And it's another thing he noted. He said,